Yes, all kinds of things are happening in the world. There is no doubt about that, and all along those lines. So definitely, there's a lot going on in the world and with the world, and all in that space. So definitely, let me get you to some of these events so we can talk about them and see what's going on. But apparently, Scotland's leader Hamza Yousaf resigned after a year in power, throwing his pro-independence party into chaos. So yes, there is chaos even in other parts of the world as well, as Scotland leader resigns as he struggles to win support for the weakened government there. And Israeli officials are concerned about possible ICC arrest warrants as pressures mount over the war in Gaza. So that is something that we're seeing in the news as well. So definitely, it looks like that is going on as well, because the Israel is concerned ICC could issue arrest warrants against Netanyahu and senior officials. So definitely, it looks like Blinken to Hamas accept Israel's extraordinarily generous Gaza truce proposal. So there is definitely hope that that will go on as well. And Blinken is urging Hamas to accept that truce proposal and all along those lines. And the World Central Kitchen will resume operation in Gaza. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. So that's something that will be going on. And Spain's prime minister, speaking of leaders, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez refuses to quit, vowing to fight unfounded attacks on his wife. So definitely, we've got folks that are having this kind of attack on them that are leaders, because the Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says he will not resign after allegations against his wife and a corruption probe. So that's something that is going on as well. And dozens are killed after a dam burst in Kenya as weeks of heavy rain devastate that region. So at least 40 people die in Kenya after a dam collapse following heavy rains. So that's something else that we're seeing in the news as well. And Australia's problem with male violence is apparently getting worse. So that's something that folks are talking about, because Australians are calling for tougher laws on violence against women after certain killings that have taken place in that area. So definitely, we're seeing the Australian Prime Minister is describing domestic violence as a national crisis. So apparently, that is a national crisis in that part of the world. And I know that can be a crisis even in this area as well. And thousands are protesting in Georgia. That meaning Georgia over there, that's in the Russian theater, as there is a controversial foreign influence law. So definitely, online media has been banned from Georgian parliament amid protests against Russian-style foreign agent law. So that's something that folks are talking about as well. And there has been some devastation in China. Aerial photos are showing devastation left by a deadly tornado in China. Extreme weather in Guangzhou kills five and brings destruction to China's industrial heartland. So that's something else that we're seeing as well. So that's something else that's going on as well. So right now, ready to bring up Rick Rosner and Nick Calveda, but that's just some of the things that are going on in the world. And I'm going to bounce off this for a second and see what we've got going on, but that's just some of the news going on. So, Rick, what's happening in your world?
The thing that had me tweeting the most over the weekend was Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, um, in her book that comes out next week, revealed that she shot a 14-month-old dog of hers because she didn't like it because it chased chickens. And she has united the right and the left with, she also shot her goat because it was stinky. Um, so everybody's pissed at her. And people are speculating she put this passage in the book to show Trump that she's tough. Trump is known for not particularly liking animals. And she apparently misjudged people that doesn't make most people think she's tough. It makes most people think she's a dog murderer.
Now, is she the governor of South Dakota?
Yeah, and she's pissed off liberals for a long time.
Why are we listening to her? I mean, here's the reality of the situation on these small, tiny micro states. I was having dinner with somebody from Montana yesterday, and here's the reality of Montana. Wake County, which is where Raleigh is situated, has twice the population of the entire state of Montana. LA County, where you live, has a population bigger than Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Kansas combined. So when somebody gets, and this is just a mathematical equation, Rick, because there's bell curve distribution. When somebody is the top of a state that's so small as South Dakota, they're not worth listening to. And it works in chess also. If you're the state chess champion of South Dakota, frankly, you suck. If you're the state chess champion of Montana, you suck. But if you come from New York or California and you're state champion, you're actually a pretty strong master. I mean, you can't win those tournaments unless you're really good. Well, same thing what happens to politicians. If you're the top person in the state of South, Christie, I don't even know her last name, so it's but Christie, South Dakota. She's just an idiot, and there's no reason to even listen to her or buy her book or have anything to do with her. I mean, it's just.
Yeah. All right. The reason that we listen to her is, you're right, because I looked at, she was elected in a landslide last time she was
by 5 people. My home.
I remember the numbers by about 212,000 to 100-something thousand for her opponent. So it's not very many people, but we listen to her because she's super pretty and she's had a bunch of work done. And she did, and
a lot of work done.
But the thing, she's obviously had a lot of filler and Botox, and
but the reality is these people don't know anything. I mean, I had a nice conversation with a person from Montana who grew up in Montana and went to a high school of 29 people graduated in her high school class. I had 2,900 in my high school class. It was a 5AA or 7AA school. It's not even close. So your distribution curves are off. I could play on every sports team in her school. I couldn't play for any in my school because they were bigger, stronger, faster than I was. And that's the same thing with listening to anybody from South Dakota. I would dismiss it summarily, counselor.
All right, but also, like, Trump is known to be surrounded by pretty women. She's pretty, and there was speculation she was high on his VP list because she's super MAGA and because she's a knockout.
Oh yeah, super MAGA, boy. That really qualifies you as a knowledgeable person. I can't wait till somebody applies in a job in San Francisco with a major company like Alphabet, or they apply to IBM or Intel and say, "Hey, I'd like a job at your company." What do you do? I'm super MAGA. Oh yeah, boy, that is really high up there. That is really what you want to recruit. I mean, it's time that we put these imbeciles in their place. And I just don't, frankly, I just don't even want to listen. Let me get rid of Christie in South Dakota. Honestly, I don't want to listen.
Nick, why are you knocking South Dakota? Because
South Dakota is
earlier.
little town. Durham County has a population that exceeds the whole state of South Dakota. Mark, my homeowners board is probably smarter than half the people there. I went through it once. I forgot maybe they have Mount Rushmore there or something like that. They have the Badlands,
Oh, they do. And they have Sturgis, which is America's annual.
Oh, yeah. That's where the American idiots go to spread coronavirus. I mean, Sturgis, during the height of coronavirus, the CDC, rightfully so, says stay away from other people because it's highly contagious. So what does Sturgis morons do? Remember, these are people, they don't watch Pod TV, so you can forget that. We're way above their pay grade. So I can insult them all I want because you will never see a person from Sturgis who rides a motorbike watch a Pod TV because their brains don't go that high. So what happens is they during the height of the pandemic all gathered and spread coronavirus throughout the Midwest.
I read I don't know if the tweet is accurate, but that they spread COVID to 60% of the counties across the U.S.
I would not be surprised that is a fair representation, And so the thing is, now there's only one good thing about Sturgis and spreading coronavirus. You're going back to Darwinian natural selection. You're getting rid of the idiots that are in this country as quickly as you can. So that's the only thing I can think that's positive about it. But if for me, driving motorcycles in the height of a pandemic, why don't they do it during the height of the 1918 pandemic? Let's drive all together and let's spread our diseases and then kill everybody. That's just brilliant. That just tells you all you need to know. Well, I'm not going to catch it because, and then they catch it and they die, or they don't catch it. And this is where the anti-vaxxers say, I didn't catch it, but somehow Granny got it and she died. That's because you were a carrier, you moron. They don't get it. And I'm just going like, they're not anti-vaxxers, they're anti-science. They probably failed biology in high school, And so the thing is, because they're so stupid, they don't even get the fact that, no, you're not going to die because you're young, but you're going to be a carrier and kill the people you're around. Oh, but then I don't have to take the vaccine. So my life is good and life is good again. So, it's just, they can't calculate A plus B equals C.
However, I looked up COVID death rates for South Dakota.
Yes.
Right in the middle. I thought it would be super high like Florida is. And I have a theory about that.
That's because they're spread out.
They're not concentrated enough to give it.
They're not concentrated in a city. They're spread out on farms. And so the thing is, the odds of them getting it, as long as they don't go to Sturgis, is pretty low. And so the thing is, then the anti-science, anti-vaxxers, I won't put science with vax because to say vaccine is just not appropriate. They don't like science at all because they can't calculate. Their thing is, well, look, our statistics aren't as bad as some other states, not realizing how they were organized and how the data was distributed. But what you're saying is correct. I mean, it's almost empirical evidence that the reason why there wasn't a high death rate in these Western states is they live on 680-acre farms away from each other. And as long as they don't communicate with each other, which they don't except to jump up and down and say MAGA, they're okay. So, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, Christy in South Dakota to me is a waste of time. I don't know why we would spend any time with her because I know she's trying to sell her book, but other than that, she doesn't. Now, here's something that isn't a waste of time is the great Columbia University. I visited the campus for the first time like last year. Before then, I used to work in New York. I worked there 5 years, but when you're working, you don't have time to visit any of the sites because you don't care. You're there to make money, not to go to, the Statue of Liberty or anything like that. And Columbia was a pretty university. All right. I mean, and the thing is, you have to have good scores to get in the school. It's a private school. It's all this wonderful stuff. Now you have protesters. Okay. And my opinion, I don't have any problems with protesters. My opinion, though, is also if they're on private land, I have a problem with them. And I don't know who owns the land that they're parking their idiot tents out. But don't make me the president of Columbia University because I'm removing all of them ASAP. Goodbye. And then I'm going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law for trespassing. And I don't give a rat's rear what they're fighting about because guess what? They're all fighting Israel and what is it? The Palestinians. Okay, they've been going on for 2,000 years. None of them are discussing what's going on in Ukraine. Now, wait a minute. Isn't Russia like bombing the bejeevers out of Ukraine? All the stuff we get in our reports, they're slaughtering people right, left, and center. But not one of these brilliant college students, who aren't so brilliant, obviously, protest at all about Russia and Ukraine. Well, wait a minute. I woke up, Jacoby, baby. It's good. He's like a little computer. You got to kind of, Alexa, wake up. Jacoby. Here we go. Go ahead, Alexa. I mean, Jacoby.
I mean, I'm just saying, they are protesting about what's going on in Ukraine, but they're protesting in the fact that we need to support Ukraine and send money there because the Republican Party was against doing that. So the protest really isn't, it's different than what you're talking about. What's going on in Israel and Gaza, you have the Palestinian people being, 30,000. Bernie Sanders pointed this out the other day. He was saying, 30,000 killed. 40,000. No, 30,000 killed.
35. We're at 35.
35,000 killed. Over 100,000 injured. You have mass starvation. Most of the hospital system is gone. So therefore, you have all this injury and everything else going on, and nobody coming to the help of the Palestinian people, and everybody sending money only to Israel and helping Israel. And Israel's blocking the actual Netanyahu's blocking the aid coming to the people of Palestine to help those individuals. So the protests are upset because, you're seeing this mass slaughter happen, and it feels like we're helping that mass slaughter happen.
We just
And
26 billion in aid to
Yep.
Israel.
Yeah, and see, this is what gets me about these stupid protesters. Okay, they're complaining, well, Columbia University is supporting indirectly the Israelis by giving money to whatever, or buying something from whatever, and they never talk about the U.S. government. Okay, but what also gets me about protesters, if you're on, I don't care if they're in Central Park, that's state land, get a permit and go and park. But if you're sitting on private property, I do care. You don't have the right to go on anybody's property and stick your nose in their business. And Colombia is showing how weak they are because their president won't remove all these people forcibly if necessary, stick them in jail, and if they're on private property. If they're on the sidewalks of New York, I have a problem.
The problem that Columbia is having, which is the same reason a lot of other universities have that same trouble, where's the line?
The line is the private property line. I don't know. If you live in a house, like I live in a house, right? I got a private property line. Okay. That's the line, buddy. Okay. If somebody parks their tent out here because they want to protest, I'm going to have them forcibly removed. I'm going to prosecute them the extent of the law. If they want to sit in the street in front of me, I don't give a rat's rear. That's public property, and that's not my problem anymore.
But are they on the private property?
Easy to draw.
Are they on private or public property?
It's it's privite or public property. In other words, like I said, if it's Central Park, that's public property. If you want to go on Central Park, fine, go ahead. But don't go on my property and protest. And also do this. There are students that actually work hard, unlike me, and they work hard to go to school, unlike me, and they pay money to go to school, all unlike me. But I do respect them. These people don't respect them. Because these people want to graduate. They want to go to their graduation.
Our kid.
I didn't even go to any of my graduations. It doesn't make it matter to me, but it may make a difference to them, and I respect them. They have no respect for other people. Screw them. Go on.
Our kid went there, and we were shocked at how much, like, you go to some Ivy colleges, they do a lot of hand holding. They identify, if you want to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship, they identify you as a freshman. They work with you to get.
I know.
But Columbia is like hands off. It's like, you're a big kid. You're here in the big city. You're like, just,
Really?
And so like our kid, like by the end of like some semester, she'd be like, oh, it's kicking my ass. So I would be like worried for her, but also glad for her to be getting all these days off. Instead of snow days, she would get Jew days because we're Jewish, and Jewish kids were said, yeah, maybe you don't want to go to class for this week. So we'd be like, all right, enjoy your time in New York. Because like you said, you never got up to Columbia. She missed seeing a lot of New York City because she was working her ass off.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I like about private schools, I'm going to go the U where I went to. One thing in the U, if you go there, you spend more than any other person in the state. And guess what? They make sure you get your degree. Mwah! Go you. Where if you went to some state school, they don't give a rat's rear about it, like USF. I watched South Florida fail out a ton of geniuses, literally, because South Florida doesn't give a rat's rear about smart people. They could care less. But that was a state school, and I don't care much about state schools.
Yeah, what they say about schools, like
Denver, a private school, good school. Mwah. Go there, they make sure you get your degree.
Yeah, but that's what they say about Harvard, Princeton, Yale. The hardest thing is to get in. But once you're in, they'll keep you in.
They keep you in, right? Yeah. My son went to Duke, and I thought the same thing with Duke. In other words, where's my Duke? Duke University, you get into Duke, you make sure you get a degree. You go in UNC, well, you may or may not, depends what the teacher feels like. We're state school and we're wonderful because we're a top state school. Screw UNC.
I went to a state school. They didn't give a crap about me. But also when I went there in the 80s, it was $1,500 a semester, room and board included. It was the cheapest. It was the cheapest place for me to be because I was floundering. I was working in bars. I didn't give a crap. If I didn't like a class, I just quit going. It didn't matter. I mean, I got kicked out for a semester for flunking everything, but it was so freaking cheap. All you could eat food, and
state schools are a bargain financially. They're a bargain. A lot of students, I'll actually recommend you should go to state school because the tuition is unbelievably cheap, and you should stay away from the private school. It depends on your individual situation. I had one kid, I said, no, you want to go to Carnegie Mellon. Don't go. Well, I got in. It's my dream school. I said, no, you're just going to spend a lot of money and go into debt, and it'll be worthless. And he did that. He spent a lot of money, went in debt, didn't even get his degree, but he did get a lot of student debt. And then there was Reed College. Oh, I got to go to Reed College. I said, look, it's a private school. No one's heard of it. You're going to spend a lot of money and get no degree. And that's what happened. I mean, so, this whole thing that the administrators are, and these are state school administrators, excuse me, they're how you say it, they're not charter school administrators, because charter school administrators certainly, hopefully, would know better than to try to pump these kids up with going to these dreams of going to these dream schools. Don't go here if you can't afford to pay full boat, or it's not paid for you. If you can, it's a great place to go. University of Miami, if you haven't been to because I went to Harvard also, and everything's around Widner Library. Screw Widner Library. That's like work. University of Miami, my school. It's
also
built around a swimming pool.
All right, one more thing. This was essential to me. Getting to make out with girls. If you go to a state school, well, people are a little bit less precious. I went to CU, University of Colorado. People were still a little bit fancy there. It was the fancy state school. But if you went to CSU, Colorado State, that whole town, Fort Collins, smelled like cow poop. It's a slaughterhouse town. It smelled like cow poop, the whole town. People got drunk. They partied their asses off. That was the school to go to if you wanted to have fun.
Right. Well, Miami is recommended if you want to have fun. Literally, the campus is built around an Olympic swimming pool, not a stupid library. You don't need stupid libraries anymore anyway. And even though ETS, which runs all the admissions programs, they run the SAT, LSAT, GMATs, all that other stuff, they're out of, quote, Princeton, New Jersey. They totally are Northeastern bias. I mean, it's unbelievable. But these schools, libraries are obsolete because you have the internet. In other words, they rank schools on how big your library is.
My wife worked in a high school, and she would bring these beautiful books home every week because the library was basically going out of business. It's like, nobody has touched these books in 20 years. Here's some beautiful, rare books. But one more thing, LSU, Louisiana State University, has a thing called the Lazy River. They put in a giant swimming pool in the shape of the initials LSU, and water flows through it, and you get in an inner tube, and you just float down the lazy LSU River. So, the
only reason to go to college today is social interaction, because everything you need to learn is in books or on the internet. So you don't even need to, or have minor guidance by a professor. But if you have any intellectual initiative whatsoever, you don't need to go to college to learn stuff. That's ridiculous. It's only for social interaction. But they still con people.
It's for bouncing off of other young idiots when you're a young idiot. It used to be in the 80s that people went to bars to try to hook up. And bars are great if you're an idiot, because they're dark, they're noisy, people are drunk, it's hard to talk, it's hard to hear.
On purpose.
80s, you could pick somebody up by being a good dancer, and all this is helpful if you're socially awkward. And it's the same deal for college. It's it's hard to meet people at work. There's sexual harassment rules, but in college you're young and awkward, but so is everybody else. So you might meet somebody and then end up married to them.
And that's the reason you go to expensive private schools, which is the only reason I can think of, but certainly not for education. That's ridiculous. The artificial intelligence, they had a big thing on 60 Minutes yesterday on the video, which is Sasha's favorite stock. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, and of course, Jacoby likes it too, because they started off as just one big Game Boy unit. In other words, graphics. The computer graphics for like Mortal Kombat. Then I have to admit, the owners started light. What?
They weren't a Game Boy thing. They weren't
everything to me when you're playing video games. Okay, So then they found the light and decided to go into artificial intelligence. And apparently, their vision of the world is AI is going to take over everything, which right now I don't see that happening. Their stock may take over, but I don't think. What are your thoughts?
Is Nvidia way up today because of 60 Minutes, Sasha?
No, it's slightly down. It was up before the opening, but now it's slightly down, a couple of points. But actually, I need to clarify something. As much as I read about NVIDIA and artificial intelligence, actually they stumbled to it almost by accident, simply because people who were developing artificial intelligence systems, they figured out that NVIDIA, as it is perfect for goals of artificial intelligence, and they started to use it more and more and more, and then all of a sudden NVIDIA became heavy favorite to use it. Is it right, Chetovi?
Yeah, so basically what ended up happening is that when Bitcoin was taking off and everybody was jumping into Bitcoin and everything else, you had that taking off where people were utilizing the GPU that NVIDIA had in their cards, and found out that could be the best way to crunch the numbers and do all the Bitcoin stuff. Then they found other ways to utilize the chip, and AI came about, and it's been, NVIDIA is dominant in Bitcoin and AI. What's out there right now? All those chipsets for everybody wants Bitcoin, everybody wants to use AI. So their stock jumped when that happened. And
is it because of parallel processing? Is it because it can do a bunch of stuff all at once, or?
It's the way I'm trying to think of the easiest way to describe it. I mean, yes, it's just basically the way it crunches numbers. The easiest way to put it. And it does that better than anything else right now in terms of its GPU setup on the actual chipset of the card. And so other companies have gravitated to that and trying to utilize that same GPU setup, and it's just going like MSI to any other computer networking setup that's out there. Yeah. And
also what they're doing now, they're integrating all their features into one unit, which could be expensive, but it does absolutely everything. So if you want to assimilate this unit, and let's say you take a chip from Intel and then your operating system from here and something there, and you will put something which at the end of the day maybe cheaper than NVIDIA unit, but it does very little of what NVIDIA does still at some kind of price. So there were noises that Intel now develops kind of a chip that will make NVIDIA obsolete, and they will fly or so on. And after that, stock of Intel started to go down almost every day. So this kind of doesn't make any sense. But that's what it is.
The crazy part about it is that Intel makes the PC chips, and they make the best version of those PC chips. The biggest competitor against Intel is AMD. AMD has their chips. The L2 cache setup, or there's another set of programming on the inside of the chip that crunches numbers differently from the way the computer takes the information in, and that chipset speeds up those Intel chips better than what's utilized with the AMD chips. So the most widely used chip on the inside of the computer are those Intel chips. But NVIDIA specifically focused on graphics and with gaming systems and everything else. And people, they truly did stumble upon it. Well, somebody stumbled upon them, because it's cheaper to replace that NVIDIA card than it is to replace the motherboard on a computer and the chipset on the computer. That's a little tougher, but they stumbled upon it, created something.
Sasha, you buy options, which is more sophisticated than I'm afraid to do that, because but like, should people wait to buy the crash, buy the dip in NVIDIA? Is NVIDIA so expensive now that you want to wait?
NVIDIA had a mini crash a week Friday ago. Okay, it went down in one day 10%, and I saw how it's happening. It's opened slightly up. It's trading. However, it was in downward movement for some time. It went down maybe 3-4%, but nothing crucial. And all of a sudden, at midpoint during the day, around noon or so, all of a sudden it started nosedives. There was no support of any kind. You know what's happening? The market makers, they remove their bids. So there are just people who want to sell, and there are no one. Supposedly, if there are no buyers, then market makers do a little bit of buying. But if market makers put no bids whatsoever, the stock nosedive. It can lose 25% in a matter of 3.5 minutes. If there are no bids and there are not even great number of sellers, but say usual number of sellers, but no bids, stock, any stock, doesn't matter, NVIDIA or IBM or Philip Morris, it doesn't matter what, it will nosedive because there will be no buyers. And that's what's happened Friday a week ago. Then NVIDIA very quickly to recover. Now, speaking about option rate, I'll tell you what I did, for example, today, just before the program. What I did was, say NVIDIA now is about what, 865 or so. Now it's 870 or maybe even higher. I'm not sure. I'll tell you exactly. I'm looking at Tesla. I'm going to buy some Tesla as well. And so what's happened with NVIDIA, symbol NVDA, you know it by heart, of course. You don't have to look anywhere. So NVIDIA is now 875. Okay, yeah, it went up a little bit since I did my transaction, but it doesn't matter. At that time, it was 866 or something like this, but I'll tell you exactly what I did. At that point, I did two transactions simultaneously. But it's treated from market purposes and the commissions and so on. It's like a single transaction. It's a spread. So my spread was this. I've simultaneously, as I said before, I bought NVIDIA May 24, which means 24th of May, not 2024.
So you're betting on the future value of it.
Hold on. But listen what I'm doing. Now, if you just buy that call, you can be right, you can be wrong, or just anything can happen. It's taking risk, even if it's educated risk or so on. When you are buying options, you're on a losing side of a transaction, as a rule. You may win some transactions, but most of the time you will lose. Now, however, what I did spread. So I bought this and I sold at the same time May 24, 875 call. So I bought 865 and sold 875. So there is a $10 profit. $10, it's $1,000 because you multiply by $100. So on one contract, if I have 5 contracts, then I will generate $5,000 profit. So what has to happen for me to lose this transaction? To lose this transaction, the stock NVIDIA by 24th of May has to be lower than 865. Is it a realistic scenario? Probably, it's possible scenario. I don't think that it's realistic, but it's very possible scenario. Now, why I don't think that it's realistic? Because NVIDIA is on the way up. As a matter of fact, Investors Business Daily, which I read, and I think it's probably the best publication about stocks. What they do is they picture the movements of the stock on a kind of a graph, and they suggest what's a buying point. Buying point, in their opinion, is when you create some kind of a base, whether it's flat base or cup with handle. It doesn't matter, there are some formations, but I don't follow that much. But what's important is that they are right 90% of the time, if not more, on the buying point for NVIDIA. You know what is their buying point now stands at? $974. It's just as fresh as 2 hours ago.
All right. So this is a question for just you and Jatovi. And it takes some setup. In the mid-90s, everybody got online and everybody was super excited about the internet. Everything was .com and everybody was going to become a millionaire by having a website. And then by the end of the 90s, by the year 2000, everybody was like, well, the internet kind of sucks butt. And people decided, no, the internet isn't everything. And the whole freaking .com world crashed for several years until Google came along, so it took a few, like everybody got more excited than they should have been, and built all up these companies, and then it all fell apart once people realized it kind of sucked butt, and it took years to recover. And now, yeah, we all do live on the internet. Is the same thing now. Everybody's super psyched about AI this, AI that. AI is going to do everything. Are we more excited than we should be? And will AI have this big crash that'll take it down for a few years until the technology catches up and there's a second wave that's the real wave?
I don't think so, because AI. I mean, it's kind of a name that people want to talk about high tech and show how educated they are and how knowledgeable they are. So, AI, artificial intelligence. So most of the people who are talking about AI don't even understand much about that, and they don't care much about it. And the real companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon reports actually tomorrow their earnings. This company, are they participating in AI? Of course. But AI is just a very small part of their business. They're incorporating that into several products and models, business models, what they're doing. But if AI, you're talking about some kind of a crash. What kind of crash of AI could be?
I'm talking, backlash. Like people are like, yeah, it's not that great. It's great for making like porno or like cheating when you need to write an essay. But beyond that,
hey, Sasha and Rick, and I guess this is the question I have for Jacoby and you kind of directed it toward him, but it's when I think of AI, I can't think of anything that doesn't have AI. As a matter of fact, there's about to be a major line. It's actually coming your way. Rick and everything, that's going to be this big, kind of high speed rail. And I'm sure that that's even going to have some artificial intelligence that will be guiding it. So I cannot think of a part of our life. I mean, even the flux, I was just watching the basketball games, and even some of those games were being monitored by AI in terms of some of the calls when they're going to the computer for judgment and all along those lines and in that space. So am I correct, Jacoby, in thinking that there isn't a part of our life that doesn't have some AI in it and everything? Because like I said, I'm literally right now while I'm talking to y'all doing the grading of the papers. As a matter of fact, we were just talking, are we being graded against AI? And the answer is yes, there is some AI that we are grading against. So I can't think of a part of our life that doesn't have some AI. Am I wrong in that? And therefore is what Rick is saying a little bit almost impossible to have happen.
So I think, Rick, when you talked about what happened with the internet, that's what's going to happen with AI. I mean, people, as you said, were so happy about the internet when they first heard it. They had visions in their mind of they had this fictional world that they were creating already, but it wasn't there at the time. So when they were believing in this, they created these ideas and sold these .coms. And the .com bubble burst because people realized that's not really what the internet is. And so once we got back to utilizing the power of the internet, being able to use information, God forbid you go without your phone. And, remember years ago when the internet was coming on, you were charged data. Now you're not charged data. I mean, you're basically getting the internet for free all the time in your hand because we can't really live without it. With AI, it's the same thing. People have the idea of what AI is and, we're going to see the Terminator come out next week. That's not what's happening. Right now, there's a growth in AI. And yes, people and businesses and companies are starting to see the power of it from every industry, from the stock market to Disney was using AI to generate characters in WandaVision, but people didn't even realize that was going on in the background. You also have AI happening in, there are movies and so on and so forth. You have, there's a company, I hadn't had a chance to read the article yet, but there's a company, Claude 3 Opus. that's actually created. Well, the title of the article is Claude 3 Opus has stunned AI researchers with its intellect and self-awareness. So now you have companies that are really diving into what AI can do. And yes, give it a couple of years. And the only reason I don't say 10, 20 years down the road, I'm saying a couple of years, because if you look at the speed at which companies have already done AI generated videos. Because remember the AI generated video of Will Smith eating spaghetti? That was the big thing. Well, that looks like crap now. And that was only a year ago. I mean, if you look now, you really have to analyze a picture to notice that it's real. You have to analyze a video. Drake, coming out of Canada, Sasha. Drake, the big time rapper, used, he evidently has, the rumor is that he invested in an AI company, and he's used that AI company to mimic two other rappers' voices in a song that he just put out. So AI is here to stay, and it's only going to grow, and it's growing at a rapid rate. And
the battle between Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole.
All right. So one thing is that there's no money to be made really from Will Smith eating spaghetti. And that's what people who argue about the AI crash say. AI, for it to be profitable, because Microsoft, all these other companies are spending tens of billions of dollars training these super powerful AIs. But to get their money back, corporations are going to have to be able to make billions of bucks in competitive advantage from using AI. And Will Smith eating spaghetti doesn't give you
just to push back on that. The only reason I brought up the Will Smith eating spaghetti thing is to talk about how, again, that was a video last year. I could bring up a video today that looks like it was just made by Steven Spielberg. So you're looking at a complete difference in the technology and how that's going. And then if you take into account, for example, GoDaddy has a commercial out right now talking about how you can create a website instantaneously. You don't have to even code. You know what they're using? AI to create that website. You have to pay for that service. So people are monetizing AI and making a killing.
That's what I was going to ask you.
For example,
it means that there's a lot of AI subscription models. I know that I get on my phone all the time where you can have an AI friend, an AI mate, an AI whatever, but they are subscription models. So that is the way that a lot of AI is making money. You can even do some AI betting. You've heard me talk about sports betting and all along those lines. So a lot of it seems to be
that sounds very dangerous and awesome.
Well, the thing is, they use AI also. It's infiltrating. Like if you ever go out to an airport and you look at the airplanes land, they always land on the same spot all the time. How do they do it? They're basically using AI to guide their airplanes in. So it's sort of amazing. When I was at SeaTac, I was watching the airplanes land. They all land on the same spot. RDU, they all land on the same spot. And you're going like, how do they do that? Well, it's all done using AI. So it's infiltrating almost every industry. Latest is pharmaceuticals. In other words, in terms of getting better drugs. In the medical area, the radiologist, the AI can detect the cancer before that. They use it in systems. So the thing is basically large data groups to be able to determine when and where and how people are going to die. It used to be the Italian actuary. They would tell you when, where, and how you're going to die. But now the actuaries can determine that. So we're going to see more and more progress in that area. At the same time, we're going to see a regression in the fact we have a very low scientific group out there. The anti-vaxxers, the people that deny science, they all live in South Dakota right now. And so what they're going to do is they're going to fight this like it's horrible that, the AI is actually smart. And even in chess world, which Sasha knows, the best chess players in the world are computers. The best basketball players, computers. The best Go players, computers. People cannot calculate as fast and as well as the computers can calculate.
I got two questions.
with AI. It's just a huge computer power, and
It's
like,
it's calculation power.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
calculation power. But Nick, I got two quick questions for both
Oh.
of you and Sasha. But one thing I was going to say is that it's definitely calculation power and all along those lines. By the way, you got to stop cracking on South Dakota because I remember way back when, and I totally lost touch with her and everything. But one of my exes was actually from there. Was one that I dated right as she was breaking up with her rodeo boyfriend when I was in college and everything. So she was from Aberdeen and all along those lines. So don't knock South Dakota. There's some good people that come out of South Dakota. And
there's one or two.
There's one or two. But the question I had for you, because I was watching a story yesterday, and this is for both you and Sasha, because I know you just kind of mentioned that y'all are both big chess fans, but there is a push to get more women involved in chess. And apparently there was a big event. I think it was called the King and Queen Club. It's actually where Rick is and all along those lines. But they were having this big push to get more young people into chess, but they were adding the lovely music of house music, which is kind of like disco, to bring them in. And they were also letting the women come in for free. I think the guys had to pay like $60 or something like that, but it was in like almost like a club environment, but they were definitely having the music and they were playing these power chess games. So I was just wondering, is that something that y'all can approve of as a big time chess fans and chess advocates and everything, or is that just going a little bit too commercial? Because like I said, there was definitely a DJ who was apparently playing a match and playing a good match, but he was also doing the house music as well.
Isn't it discrimination asking men to pay $60 and women get it for free?
Yeah, that's true. It is. It's sex discrimination. What is this thing that you're showing, Jacoby?
That's not sex discrimination. They do that all the time at clubs and everything else. The same difference.
But it's still sex discrimination.
It's not.
It makes for a better experience for everybody, because by charging guys, you keep some of the creeps out.
Well, with that image, that's basically showing, as we talked about, the Will Smith eating spaghetti, and that was just AI generated. That was all that is. It's not.
So is this all AI? Is this what we're?
That's all AI.
Nobody in that thing exists.
No, but speaking of AI, there's a thing going around now that is very morbid, but apparently it is also very AI oriented. But there is this notion, I'm sure you've seen it, Rick, that you can have a coffee table with your deceased in the coffee table. But it's my understanding that that is actually an AI generated image, but it's been out there on the website for several years. Literally, you can see it on Instagram. You can see supposedly grandma or granddad or whoever, and they're literally in the coffee table, which to me is.
If you watch science fiction movies, they have these tombstones in the future, gravestones, where you go there and you talk to grandma because there's AI built into the gravestone.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
boy, that's something I can't wait to do, is to talk to dead people. Didn't they have a movie about that a long time ago?
I mean, can't you wait to have one of your can't you wait to have one of your dead relatives that you're having coffee on the table with them in the
I can't
item?
wait.
And some people are saying it's fake AI.
Speaking about dead brains, there are people in Washington D.C. that are dead brains, and Steve may have a report on what's going on the Big Banana. I mean,
I'm sorry I was late. Sorry I was late today, guys. I'm going to try to come in more on Fridays to open up, but and I'll try to be there tomorrow on More Politics. But real quickly about AI before I get to the DC and lots of things going on. But I think that it's very significant to understand how fast the innovation is going. And I think that one of the things lacking is a clear AI strategy. In a few weeks, I'm actually hosting John Chambers here in Morrisville, Cary area to come and talk about AI summit he and I are hosting. And we're bringing together a lot of thought leaders. So John used to run Cisco. And the bottom line is that there needs to be regulation at the state level, the federal level. We don't know how these technologies are being used. But at the same time, we know there are a lot of benefits. I mean, just in terms of, when you look at governments, having automated tasks that we normally have to wait for someone on the phone. AI can do that. AI can help you know when to pick up your trash, when your trash pickup is, so you don't have to spend all your time on a website. There's going to be a lot of examples of that, but I think that there was a good thing on 60 Minutes yesterday about NVIDIA and all the work that they're doing to transform AI with robots that are really making really significant inroads. But and speaking of that, with brain dead politicians, maybe the AI could take over and eventually run the Congress and the Senate. But we are glad that they passed the Ukraine deal. Of course, TikTok will be banned. I'm not really in favor of that. I don't know where you guys stand on that, but I do think it eliminates innovation and creativity. But anyway, those are my
Hey, Rick, I mean, definitely Coach Rick, but Steve, just really quickly and everything along those lines. I had heard, and I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts around this notion that there is going to be a truce among some folks that were very much against each other. And I know that Trump needs DeSantis in order to carry Florida, but apparently there's some issues that are around Florida that are now in the play, speaking of what's going on politically, because apparently both the abortion issue and medical marijuana are on play in Florida. So I just wanted y'all's take on that and whether this truce will actually work, because apparently they're meeting, I want to say they're meeting today and all along those lines. So will this truce work in helping him carry one of the swing states, that being Florida? Because when I was watching, I think it was News Nation, there were two people, a Republican and a Democrat, and they had some interesting thoughts as to whether North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and the 7 swing states, how they would go. Because, of course, one of the Republicans thought North Carolina was going to be totally Republican, and the Democratic advisor, she thought that it would flip to the Democratic side and all in that space. But what is your thoughts around the swing state and also this potential truce?
Well, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I think, go ahead, Rick, but I think there'll be a lot of truces moving forward.
Nobody knows. The polls keep getting crappier because you can't get sane, regular people to answer a poll anymore. Nobody wants to take a cold call from a surveyor, and every once in a while I'll say yes, and I'm like, how long it'll take? And they say 10 minutes, and it always takes like 22 minutes. It pisses me off. Like, people know better. So the only people who say yes to being polled are crazy people, which means you get zero information from polls. There was a poll came out on CNN yesterday that said that Trump is ahead across the whole country by 6 percentage points, 49 to 43. There's no way that doesn't have a lot of crazy people in it, because look at Trump. He's asleep in court. He's farting. He's on trial for porn star stuff. It's like, is it real? Are people really going to vote for this jerk? And you can't tell. We don't know. We don't frickin' know.
It's a normal day at the office. Hey, Steve, when are you hosting John Chambers anyway?
He's coming here May 15th. It's probably going to be a virtual event, but he might change his plans and come in person. He's kind of keeping it in suspense. But I'll send you guys a link. There's only a few more slots left. It's sold out. So we're gonna do but it's also going to be streamed virtually. But I can save some spots for you guys if you want to come. Yeah, it's going to be on AI and its future. And I'll send you the link, Nick, to register. We can try to see if you guys want to stream it on your platforms as well. I apologize. Kind of came up last minute. Yeah. But yeah, I'll send you a note. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's streamable, then the thing is we can stream it on the Pod TV network.
Yeah. I'll send you the stuff, Nick, for sure. And I apologize. I was going to call you about it. Right. Yeah, just kind of happened last minute, and it's all coming together. But it's May 15th at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time. John
is that
Chambers.
Wednesday?
Yes, it's Wednesday. It's going to be a hybrid event. He's going to be addressing investors and startups and city governments and local governments. Right. And it's all about AI in our future. And he's going to talk about what he's viewed as a former CEO and now an investor, and what he's seeing in terms of other countries and the kinds of strides they're making in innovation and AI, but also is very concerned about the lack of a strategy. John is more of an optimist. He really believes that we're going to be okay and that not every job is going to be decimated away. But he says we have to move very fast because it's happening very fast and much faster than we are used to in the United States of America. So it's going to be a very interesting topic.
It sounds like a great event. Say, Steve, speaking of things that are happening fast, and we've only got 5 minutes to go, and I kind of alluded to it toward the time that I came back on after having another meeting and everything. But what is your thoughts, because you are a big fan of infrastructure, and I did hear that we are about to launch this rail that'll be going out there by where Rick is and all along those lines. And a lot of people are thinking that the current president is not emphasizing what he is doing with this high-speed rail, because it sounds like it's going to be almost like the rail that exists in parts of Europe and everything. But what is your take on that? And because they're saying it's going to create thousands of jobs.
Oh, I mean, I think, Rick, excuse my ignorance, where do you, Rick, live, Rick?
I'm in LA, and yeah, we need a train to Vegas. It's 300 miles to Vegas.
Well,
it's a terrible drive.
Well, this is a good segue. We just talked about Chambers, but one of the things he talks about is India and how fast they're moving in terms of their economy. But one of the things is the infrastructure. I mean, Modi is putting in high-speed rail between all the major cities in India, bus transit, highways, expressways, billions of dollars. And so to answer your question, Mark, yes, we need to move quickly in America with infrastructure, trains, high-speed rail, to take cars off the road, reduce carbon emissions. And yes, it can create jobs. And we often look back to the New Deal. When Roosevelt was in the White House, we modernized 1,000 airports. They put electricity into every rural area. And we're doing this with broadband now, which is also considered infrastructure. You know, broadband is really no different than electricity or water. You need it to work, to survive, to connect, to get your information, to pay your bills. So absolutely, we need infrastructure. The good news is that Biden's done a really good job of bringing this infrastructure investment. The question becomes, how quickly can they be executed to deliver and implement these projects? How often have we seen, remember when Obama did the stimulus funds, even in Morrisville, we broke dirt on a grade separations when they separate the rail tracks from the road 7.5 years later, 7 years later. So it takes so long to get this infrastructure in place, and the cost of infrastructure is going up. So I hope that answers your question. But yeah, infrastructure create jobs, but we need it in America.
I just want to mention that we're going to get hit with in the next 6 months till the election. There's going to be an avalanche of AI-generated disinformation.
Yeah.
Like for years, there have been pictures of Trump having pooped his pants on the golf course with poopy pants. Now that's BS. Somebody made that, but now it's like it's not Will Smith eating spaghetti anymore. You're going to see Biden saying stuff that's totally disqualifying. He never said it. You're going to see Trump saying stuff he never said. You're going to have to be extra careful.
Yeah, I agree, and it's
So I just want to point out, Nick, if you could pull this up one more time about the showing
the dog.
So yeah, this is all AI generated again.
Those
So that's all
dogs,
fake.
none of those dogs ever existed.
None ever existed. The snow never existed. Nothing. None of that is real. Absolutely nothing. This is what we keep talking about with the spaghetti. This is the Will Smith spaghetti. This was last year. So you go from this to this in 1 year.
Right. Well,
And
what
that's where
Rick
the
is
scary
saying,
part
I think
is how much more realistic, how much more can you? I mean, the voice
lot
modulation
more.
now is unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, you can like this dude here. If you bring up that guy's fake, completely fake, all made up.
That guy's like from 4 months ago. I'm sure you could make an even more real guy today.
Yeah, and that's
but what Rick
that's
is saying is
scary
you're going
part.
to see a lot of politics on the internet and social media all being fake. And the thing is, they said that 90% of people get their news now on social media. 90%. They don't get it through the major media sources. They go into their whatever favorite social media, like we're beaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. They get it from all those sources, and they don't get it from ABC, CBS, and NBC. I can't blame them because the majors.
No, we can talk about it on the media.
One more thing. Like every year, every election, people get text messages saying, "Be sure to vote online," and it gives you a link. You can't vote online, but this year, and people fall for it. Or be sure to vote this day, and it's the wrong day. This year, the difference is going to be you're going to get a message with video of Biden saying, "Be sure to cast your vote online at this link." And it's going to all be BS.
Oh, gosh. You might be right. We may be heading toward something we've never seen before, but what we're going to see now is an exit of the pod TV because we have to move on to economics with the Honorable David M. Walker. So everybody's going to be gone. And we will see you later today. Bye-bye.